Okay, so this is the worth value brand discussion. And the first question says to discuss two things that we can do today that can help close the gap between your worth and your value um, as an athletic training student. And I think one of the biggest things that I can do now as a student is to try to create closer relationships with the students that we see every day. Because like sometimes we get so busy and wrapped up and just trying to get people in and out the door that we don't really pay attention or even ask how people are doing from day to day. And I think that if we create better relationships with the students, we'll be able to like catch more things and just notice that if someone's not feeling well or we know why they're not very talkative, that we can see that and maybe make that a point to the certified we're working with, just to kind of give them a heads up saying like, hey, like I think this person's off today. And I think that'll make us um, look better with our certified that we're with. And another thing I think that we can do to increase our worth right now as a student is to do documentation. And I know a lot of times that's not something we do. Most of the time, it's usually the certifieds that take care of the documentation sort of thing. And I think that if like us as students would take the initiative to try to do some of the documentation, so one that we know how to do it when we get out on our own, so we're not so our employers are like, well, why haven't you done this before? So we kind of know what we're doing. And two, it'll kind of help out the certified we're with, and it'll make us look so it'll increase our worth and value to the certified that we're with, so we're not just there trying to push all the work off on them, that we know how to do things also. And another thing that I think would help increase our worth and value as students is looking for common things or injuries that happen with the athletes that we're working with, and then try to find things to either prevent them or, well, prevention, trying to stop them from happening. So, for example, we have a lot of kids with ankle problems and shin splints right now where I'm at Whitco, and it has to do with our practice field. So there's really not a whole lot we can do about it, but just like making it known that, hey, the field's real bad on this part, so maybe you should run over here to try to stop some of those injuries from happening as much as we can. And I think that noticing little things like that and being able to try to come up with ways to help them would help increase our worth and value to certifieds. And another thing personally that I think would help with this would be being able to explain why we do things to patients, because like when we learn things in class, it's like, well, if this happens, you need to do this. Like STEM is needed with this, but ultrasound would be better with this. And we don't really think about, well, what if a patient stops and asks us why? We're like, oh, well, what do we kind of do about it? So I think becoming more and more knowledgeable, and like the more we do it, the more it makes sense to us. So we can explain to athletes why we're doing things that we do, just so they have more trust in us. So that we are able to go back to the first thing I said, to watch out kind of for the athletes, so they have some kind of trust in us, so they can come to us and kind of help build that relationship. And for things that we can do as a certified athletic trainer to close the gap between your worth and your value, I think one of those things that I kind of talked about being a student is injury prevention, looking to see what's common going on with the athletes where you're at, like what carries on from one thing to the next, and how you can kind of stop those things, like heat illness, like dehydration, all the things that are really common no matter what school or place, whatever sport you're working with, and being able to talk to your athletes and the coaches and know really what you're talking about so you can explain to them what's going on. I think that'll really show to the coaches that you're working with that you do know what you're talking about and you're able to help their teammates out, and also to your employers that you're trying to help out all the coaches and athletes to kind of help these things before they happen. Another thing that will close the gap between worth and value is just continuing our education as we become certified. So CEUs and whatever else we go to just keep learning more new things and trying to keep updating what we're doing. So we're doing like the newest things. We're not stuck in what we're doing, right? What we learned when we were in school. So we're always improving and always learning that what we can do better to help with help with new things and just being able to do things differently. And another thing that personally that I've seen, especially working in a high school setting, working in a high school setting that I think that I would struggle with, especially not being at a high school before, is being able to talk with parents. Because usually, like when you're at Manchester, you don't really have to talk. You don't have to call the parents as your first one to talk that you have to talk to. You usually can just tell the athlete what's going on, and the parents get involved if they feel like they need to or whatever. But in a high school, I really found like sometimes you don't want to tell a student what's going on because they're going to get super emotional, or things are going to be relayed correctly through the student to the parent. So then the parent comes back on you and they think something completely different. And I think learning how to talk to parents and incorporate all that, if I was to go into a high school setting, is going to be something that's super beneficial just all around. And I think that would be one more thing that would help close the gap between my worth and value as a certified athletic trainer.